Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders enter the 2025 season with a rare mixture of excitement and anxiety, a cocktail that has both fans and analysts divided about what the future might hold for this rising NFC contender. After shocking the football world with a run to the conference title game last season, expectations are sky-high, but that can be both a blessing and a curse. For every pundit projecting another deep playoff run, there is another warning that regression could come swiftly if certain weaknesses aren't addressed. Brad Gagnon of Bleacher Report put it bluntly: the defense, not the offense, is where things could get dicey. It sounds counterintuitive at first, because Washington had its moments last year on that side of the ball, but it's exactly those moments that worry critics. The consistency wasn't there. Too often, big plays were surrendered in the secondary, while the defensive line, once considered the team's greatest strength, didn't always live up to its billing. Gagnon argues that the Commanders can no longer rely on being opportunistic in shootouts and must find a more stable, reliable defensive identity. Without that, the ceiling shrinks, no matter how electric Jaden Daniels looks under center. To be fair, Washington's front office was not blind to these concerns. General Manager Adam Peters swung big in the offseason, essentially reshaping half of the defense with new starters. It's the kind of bold overhaul that signals urgency, but also creates questions about chemistry and cohesion. Bringing in names like Marshawn Lattimore, Von Miller, and Javon Kinlaw suggests a mix of star power and brute strength, while rookies like Trey Amos provide hope for the future. On paper, it looks like a much stronger unit, but the phrase "on paper" has burned countless teams before. Until they line up and prove it against live competition, fans are left wondering whether this is a championship-caliber rebuild or a patchwork experiment. Joe Witt Jr., tasked with molding this group into something special, faces immediate pressure to deliver, because no one in D.C. wants to see the defense become the Achilles heel of an otherwise stacked roster. The first test comes quickly against the New York Giants, and it could set the tone for the season. Either the revamped defense makes a statement early, or doubts creep in faster than anyone would like. Still, Gagnon was careful to highlight specifics, because broad critiques don't always stick unless they're backed by numbers. Washington's 17 takeaways in 2024 were near the bottom of the league, an alarming stat when you consider how often turnovers swing games in the modern NFL. Add in the fact that they were statistically one of the worst teams against the run, and you start to see the picture forming. Washington could score with anyone, but too often they were gashed on the ground or failed to create momentum-changing plays defensively. That formula works until it doesn't. Elite quarterbacks can carry you deep, but eventually, you'll run into an opponent that knows how to control tempo, wear down your defense, and win ugly. Washington saw glimpses of that last year, but escaping close games became their habit. That kind of luck rarely repeats itself 2 seasons in a row. The question is whether the infusion of defensive talent can flip those margins, turning games that once teetered on disaster into comfortable wins. If it doesn't, the nightmare scenario is real. Another brilliant offense wasted by defensive shortcomings that were visible from miles away. The secondary, in particular, feels like the swing factor. A fully healthy Marshawn Lattimore is not just a nice addition. He's a tone setter, someone capable of locking down a top receiver and shifting the math in Washington's favor. Pair him with an aggressive rookie like Trey Amos, and suddenly the team looks dangerous on the back end. Add in safeties Quan Martin and Mike Sainristil, both trending upward as potential takeaway machines, and there's genuine optimism. Then you remember that Von Miller, even in the twilight of his career, can still change a game with one perfectly timed pass rush. His presence alone might open doors for younger defenders to feast. It's not unreasonable to think this group could evolve into a turnover-happy defense that compensates for any growing pains. And yet, there's always the caveat: injuries, age, or misfit pieces could derail the plan. What looks like a dream on the depth chart could become a puzzle missing critical pieces by mid-season. Fans are right to be hopeful, but also cautious, because this league has a way of punishing teams that count too heavily on best-case scenarios coming true. When it comes to the trenches, Washington's moves scream urgency. The addition of Javon Kinlaw provides raw power in the middle, a much-needed reinforcement for a team that too often got bullied in short-yardage situations. Even more quietly, Dietrich Wise Jr. could prove to be the unsung hero because setting the edge against the run was a glaring weakness in 2024. If Wise brings stability there, the ripple effects could be massive. Running backs won't have the same easy lanes, linebackers can play faster, and the defense as a whole can dictate terms rather than react. The truth is, fixing the run defense doesn't just mean better stats. It means more opportunities for Jayden Daniels and the offense. Every extra possession matters. Every stop shifts momentum. That's why analysts harp on the defensive numbers. They're not just stats. They're lifelines in a league where margins are razor thin. Washington's front office clearly understood that, which is why they invested so heavily in reshaping the line. Now, it's on the players to justify those investments, because another season of defensive collapses would erase all the goodwill earned last year. Beyond defense, however, lies another potential crack in the armor: special teams. Matt Gay is a veteran kicker with plenty of high-pressure experience, but his shaky preseason has not gone unnoticed. Missed kicks in September can be brushed off, but missed kicks in December can ruin playoff dreams. For a team with championship aspirations, that margin for error simply doesn't exist. If Gay doesn't stabilize quickly, Washington could find itself forced to make a mid-season change, a disruption no contender wants to deal with. Add in the fact that the offense itself is going through adjustments on the line, and you start to see how delicate this balance really is. The Commanders are trying to build something sustainable, but too many small cracks could compound into a collapse. That's what makes Gagnon's warning resonate. This isn't about one glaring weakness. It's about the possibility of multiple smaller issues snowballing at the worst possible time. Washington has the talent to overcome those challenges, but whether they have the discipline and mental toughness is the real question. And discipline ties directly into perhaps the most dangerous intangible of all: overconfidence. Jayden Daniels was nothing short of spectacular as a rookie, instantly becoming the face of the franchise and giving fans hope they hadn't felt in years. The problem is that success at that level, especially so early, can create unrealistic expectations. Last season, Washington won an unusual number of close games, a sign of resilience, but also of good fortune. If players and fans start to believe they are destined to repeat that, they could find themselves blindsided when the ball bounces the other way. No team can survive by waiting for its quarterback to bail it out every week. If the defense doesn't carry its share, if the offensive line struggles to gel, or if the kicking game falters, even Daniels' brilliance won't be enough. That's why Gagnon points to complacency as perhaps the most underrated danger. It's not just about X's and O's, it's about mindset. Great teams know how to manufacture urgency even after success. Washington has to prove it can do that, or risk being another one-year wonder. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. The rumor that shook the NFL community this week is something that nobody saw coming. And yet, when you start to connect the dots, it almost feels like the kind of wild twist that makes football such an unpredictable spectacle. Saquon Barkley, the electrifying running back known for his explosive runs and highlight reel agility, reportedly said in a private conversation that Commanders head coach Dan Quinn called me, and I accepted. Now, whether this was a slip, a tease, or a full-blown leak remains unclear, but the buzz around it is louder than ever. Fans in New York are in disbelief, asking how their franchise player could even consider such a move, while Washington supporters are already dreaming of what this kind of offensive firepower would look like under Quinn's guidance. The timing of this rumor couldn't be more dramatic, with free agency talks swirling and both teams at critical crossroads in their identity. If true, this would not only reshape the NFC East but send ripple effects across the entire league, because Barkley is not just a star running back. He's the kind of player who shifts defensive game plans and alters the way opponents approach an entire offense from the opening whistle. It's worth remembering that Dan Quinn, although better known for his defensive expertise, has always had a keen sense for creating balanced teams that thrive on identity and leadership. His reputation in Washington has been that of a culture builder, someone intent on resetting the tone after years of inconsistency. If Barkley truly accepted Quinn's call, It signals that the coach's vision is not only resonating with players, but also attracting marquee talent who want to be part of something fresh. Barkley's potential move could be about more than football. It could be about trust, energy, and the belief that Washington, often overlooked, might be on the brink of building something substantial. Imagine Barkley lining up in burgundy and gold, bringing that mix of patience and explosion to a fanbase starving for hope. It would be symbolic, too, of Quinn's ability to lure a player who could have waited for multiple offers elsewhere. Instead, if the rumor holds, Barkley is apparently all in, and that changes the way free agents, rivals, and even analysts view the Commanders' trajectory heading into a crucial season. From a Giants' perspective, this is a dagger of betrayal mixed with inevitability. Saquon Barkley has long been the heart of New York's offense, carrying not only the ball but the weight of expectations on his shoulders year after year. Injuries and inconsistent quarterback play often left him as the lone bright spot in dark times. For Giants fans, hearing that he might willingly accept a call from Washington is like watching a franchise pillar walk into a division rival's locker room with open arms. The emotional side of it can't be overstated. Barkley isn't just another player. He's a symbol of resilience and hope. Losing him, and worse, losing him to a rival, would sting in ways beyond the field. There's also the question of strategy. How does New York replace not just his production, but his leadership, his explosiveness, and the way defenses have to respect his presence? The Giants' front office will face a storm of criticism if this rumor proves true, because fans will ask how they let such a move happen, and critics will say it's another chapter in a story of mismanagement and missed opportunities. On the Washington side, the fantasy is irresistible. Pairing Barkley with their current offensive pieces could transform a unit that has often lacked consistency. With a running back of his caliber, you suddenly open up the passing game, because defenses must commit resources to stop him, freeing up opportunities for receivers and tight ends. Barkley's versatility as both a runner and receiver out of the backfield makes him an offensive coordinator's dream, giving Dan Quinn and his staff multiple ways to exploit mismatches. Beyond the X's and O's, this move would announce to the league that the Commanders are no longer content to linger at the bottom of power rankings. It would scream ambition, daring, and a hunger to shake up the status quo. Fans in D.C., long deprived of sustained success, would have reason to pack the stands with real belief that the tide is finally turning. And if Barkley himself truly feels that Dan Quinn sold him on the vision, then the narrative shifts from a simple signing to a potential cultural milestone in Washington's football history. The broader NFL implications cannot be ignored either, because whenever a star of Barkley's stature changes uniforms, the ripple effect is immediate. Defensive coordinators around the league would need to redraw game plans. Pundits would revise playoff predictions, and rival teams in the NFC East would feel the heat of an arms race. Dallas, Philadelphia, and the Giants would all be forced to reckon with the fact that Washington, so often dismissed, now boasts a player who can single-handedly change outcomes. It would also raise fascinating questions about how free agents perceive Washington as a destination. If Barkley, with his star power and options, truly said yes to Quinn's pitch, then suddenly the Commanders are not just a team with a coach and a rebuild. They're a team that can attract proven, elite talent. The symbolic weight of that shift could be as significant as the on-field production, because NFL players talk, they influence one another, and one bold move can trigger a domino effect across the market. Barkley might just be the spark that redefines Washington's reputation within the league. Critics, of course, will question the wisdom of such a move, pointing to Barkley's injury history and the general decline of running back value in today's NFL market. The league has increasingly treated running backs as replaceable, investing more heavily in quarterbacks, wide receivers, and offensive lines. Barkley, however, is not a typical back. He's an outlier, the kind of player who makes highlight reels explode and forces even skeptical analysts to admit his game-changing impact. Still, the risk is there, and skeptics will argue that Washington may be gambling its future on a player whose best years could be behind him. Dan Quinn's reputation, too, would be tied to this decision. If it pays off, he'll be hailed as a visionary who saw beyond the noise and bet on a transformative talent. If it fails, Critics will circle back to question whether the Commanders fell into the same trap other franchises have, chasing a star for the sake of headlines rather than building a sustainable foundation. The tension between reward and risk only adds fuel to the intrigue swirling around this potential blockbuster move. And then there's Barkley himself, a player who has always carried himself with class, humility, and a competitive fire that resonates with fans and teammates alike. If he indeed confirmed that he accepted Quinn's call, it suggests a man ready for a new chapter, unafraid of the scrutiny, and determined to prove his worth on a new stage. Barkley has long expressed his desire to win, to be part of something meaningful, and perhaps he feels that Washington offers the right stage for that dream. It would not be the first time a great player chose to leave familiar ground in pursuit of greater opportunity. History is full of examples where the gamble paid off, leading to legacies cemented in unexpected places. For Barkley, the question will be whether this rumored decision truly aligns with his goals, or whether it's simply another twist in a career already marked by highs, lows, and constant speculation. One thing is clear: if he suits up for the Commanders, all eyes will be on him to deliver, because the expectations would skyrocket the moment the ink dries. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.